We're going to do something a little different today with this video, rather than me telling you some obscure fact that you probably don't care about. I'm gonna tell you guys where you can watch an entire documentary about Julius Caesar for free online. The documentary is called The First Emperor, and it was produced by the BBC. It covers Julius Caesar's rise to power from his humble beginnings as part of a minor Roman family. How he and Pompey were rivals for supremacy, how they eventually came to rule Rome together as a team, and then how Mark Antony and Octavian fought a civil war to determine who would be the sole ruler of Rome. The documentary is really well made. It has a great narrator in Peter Oul, and as far as I know, it is nowhere on the internet except here on my channel. Now before we get into the documentary, let's talk about some interesting facts about Julius Caesar, because it would be remiss of me not to mention a few facts about Caesar himself. I've got 5 of them here. They're pretty good, so let's get into it. Number 1, Julius Caesar was actually born into a minor Roman family. He was not born into one of the 2 dominant families of the late Republic, the Julii or the Claudii. In fact, he was born into the gens Julia, which was a relatively unimportant plebeian family. But this didn't stop young Gaius from having big dreams. After studying law, he began to climb the political ladder. And at age 30, he was elected to the prestigious position of aedile. Later, he served as praetor, and then consul, and then, dictator. In fact, no. Julius Caesar had a really close relationship with his mother. We all know that Julius Caesar was assassinated in the Senate, but what most people don't know is that his mother, Aurelia Cotta, was also killed in the same event. Now, she wasn't stabbed by any senators. She died after hearing about her son's assassination. According to Plutarch, she was so distraught when she heard the news that she shut herself in a room and starved herself to death. Talk about a loving mother. It's not just cats that are crazy for their mamas. Apparently Romans were like that too. In fact, no. 3. Julius Caesar was a military genius. Yeah, he was. The guy conquered Gaul, for crying out loud. But it wasn't just brute force that made him such a successful general. He also understood the importance of logistics and strategy. For example, he built roads and bridges wherever he went so that his troops could move around easily. And he always made sure that his army was well supplied with food and other necessities. In fact, one of the main reasons why he was able to conquer Gaul was because he set up an efficient system for collecting taxes from the conquered people. This allowed him to pay his soldiers and buy supplies without having to rely on Rome. As a result, Caesar's army was able to stay in the field for long periods of time, which was key to his success. Moving on to fact no. 4. Julius Caesar was a prolific writer. He wrote about everything from philosophy to politics to military strategy. Unfortunately, most of his works have been lost, but we do have a few scattered pieces here and there. One of the most famous is his commentaries on the Gallic Wars, which is a detailed account of his conquest of Gaul. It's not just a military history, though. Caesar also writes about the people and culture of Gaul, as well as his own thoughts and reflections on the war. The commentaries are not only an important source of information about Caesar, but they're also great literature. Caesar was a master of the Latin language, and he uses it to great effect in his writings. And finally, fact no. 5. Julius Caesar was a dictator. Yeah, that's right. He was the first dictator of the Roman Empire. Now, don't go thinking that being dictator was like being a king. There was no hereditary element to the office, and Caesar had to be re-elected every year. Additionally, he had to maintain a facade of republicanism and consult with the Senate, even though he was really the sole ruler of Rome. Despite this, Caesar was still able to amass enormous power, and he used it to great effect. He reformed the Roman calendar, founded new colonies, and built new roads and aqueducts. He also appointed loyal supporters to key positions throughout the empire, and he made sure to keep the Senate in check. As a result, Caesar was able to create a stable and prosperous Rome. Now that you know a little bit more about Julius Caesar, it's time to watch the documentary. Like I said before, it's called The First Emperor. It's by the BBC, and it's narrated by Peter Oul. I think you're really gonna like it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Also, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, because I put out videos about ancient Rome every single week. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. Alright guys, it's time for the documentary now. Before we get into it, I just want to say thanks for being here and thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please consider liking it. It really helps me out. While you're at it, why not subscribe? That way you won't miss any of my videos about ancient Rome. Okay, here we go. The first emperor. When Julius Caesar died, he left behind a legacy that would influence the course of Western civilization for centuries to come. His accomplishments were many and varied, but perhaps the most important thing that Caesar brought to Rome was stability. After decades of civil war and chaos, Caesar restored order to the Republic and set it on a new course. In doing so, he created the template for the imperial system that would last for centuries. Caesar's rise to power was meteoric. He was born into a minor Roman family, but through his own efforts and a bit of luck, he was able to climb the political ladder and eventually become dictator. Along the way, he made powerful enemies, but he was able to defeat them and solidify his control over Rome. Once in power, Caesar wasted no time in getting to work. He knew that Rome was in need of reform, and he set about making changes in every area of government. He reformed the tax system, he reorganized the army, and he established a new currency. He also undertook a number of public works projects, including the construction of new roads, aqueducts, and public buildings. But perhaps Caesar's most important accomplishment was his codification of Roman law. Up until Caesar's time, Roman law was a mess of conflicting laws and customs. But Caesar saw the need for a uniform and logical legal code, so he set about creating one. The result was the Lex Julia, a comprehensive set of laws that covered everything from criminal procedure to property rights. The Lex Julia was a masterpiece of Roman jurisprudence, and it set the foundation for the Justinian Code that would come later. In addition to his legislative accomplishments, Caesar was also a brilliant military commander. He conquered Gaul and expanded Rome's territory to its greatest extent ever. He also defeated the Helvetians, pushed them back across the Rhine River. Caesar's military victories were important in that they helped to secure Rome's borders and bring stability to the empire. But they were also important because they made Caesar even more popular with the Roman people. The adulation of the masses made Caesar even more powerful and enabled him to carry out his reforms even in the face of opposition from the Senate. Unfortunately, Caesar's enemies in the Senate were able to get the upper hand in the end. They assassinated Caesar on the Ides of March, ending his life and ending his plans for Rome. Nevertheless, Caesar's legacy lived on. His adopted son, Octavian, went on to become the first emperor of Rome, and he inherited much of Caesar's power base. Octavian was able to defeat Caesar's other enemies and establish the Pax Romana, a period of peace and prosperity that lasted for 2 centuries. In doing so, he fulfilled Caesar's dream of a stable and prosperous Rome. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching.